have chosen to speak about Valentina Tereshkova, the first woman to ever travel to space. She is an amazing woman and truly a pioneer. I consider her a role model, and I will explain why I see her that way through this presentation. Ready? Let's launch! Although this woman is a revolutionary of her kind, many young people do not know who she is. Valentina Vladimirovna Tereshkova from Russia was the first woman in space, flying the space vessel Vostok 6 in June 1963. She spent nearly 3 days in space and orbited the Earth 48 times before landing. This was her only trip to space. She later became a brilliant engineer and toured the world to promote Soviet science and became a big part of Soviet politics. To this day, she still remains one of the more influential women in the world and is still considered as a national hero in post-Soviet Russia. Valentina Tereshkova was born on March 6, 1937, in Maslenikovo, a village near the Volga River which lies northeast of Moscow. Her parents had migrated from Belarus, and her father was a tractor driver while her mother worked at a sewing mill. Valentina's father was killed during World War II in the Finnish Winter War when she was only 2 years old, leaving her mother to raise 3 children all by herself. Valentina started school at the age of 8, but left school at 16 years old. She started working at a tire factory, but later joined her mother at the sewing mill. She continued her education through correspondence courses. In 1961, she became secretary of the local Komsomol, the Young Communist League, and later joined the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. At a young age, Valentina became very interested in parachuting and started training at the local aero club. It was her skydiving experience and knowledge that later led to her being selected as a cosmonaut. After Yuri Gagarin became the first man in space in 1961, the chief Soviet rocket engineer wanted to put a woman in space, and Tereshkova immediately volunteered for the Soviet space program. At the time, cosmonauts had to parachute from their capsules moments before they hit the ground on returning to Earth. She was selected from over 400 volunteers and came to the quote-unquote final 5. Along with the 4 other women, Tereshkova spent 18 months of training for the program, and training would include tests to determine how she would react to long periods of time of being alone, to extreme gravity conditions, and to zero gravity conditions. Of the 5 women, Tereshkova was the only one who ever went into space. Originally, the Vostok mission included 2 women, Tereshkova and Ponomaryova, who would pilot Vostok 5 and 6. In May, the same year, the plan was altered, and Vostok 5 would now have a male pilot. Tereshkova was instead chosen to pilot Vostok 6. Cosmonaut Valery Bukovsky launched the Vostok 5 on June 14, 1963, and only 2 days later Tereshkova launched. The 2 spacecrafts took different orbits and came closest at 3 miles apart from each other. The cosmonauts exchanged communication through the trip. Tereshkova logged more than 70 hours in space, even though both of her pencils broke. She orbited Earth 48 times before landing. She landed safely, but for 40 years a secret was hidden about her flight that may have ended up as a catastrophe. An error in the vessel's automatic navigation software that caused the vessel to move further away from Earth. Thankfully, she noticed this very quickly and wrote in a new algorithm made by the Soviet scientists manually. She landed in the Altai region near today's Kazakhstan-Mongolia-China border. Villagers helped Tereshkova out of her spacesuit and asked her to join them for dinner. She accepted and was later reprimanded for violating the rules and not undergoing medical tests first. However, Tereshkova was honored with the title Hero of the Soviet Union. She received the Order of Lenin and the Gold Star Medal. She became a spokesperson for the Soviet Union, and while fulfilling this role, she received the United Nations Gold Medal of Peace. Tereshkova never flew in space again. Although there were plans for more flights by women, the next woman in space came 19 years later. On November 3, 1963, Tereshkova married fellow cosmonaut Andrei Nikolaev. Their first child, a daughter named Elena, was closely inspected by doctors as she was the first child who had parents who had both been to space. Valentina later got a doctorate in engineering, and Tereskova and Nikolaev divorced in 1980. In 1982, Tereskova married Yuliu Shapsovnikov, a surgeon. She later was a deputy to the Supreme Soviet and then a People's Deputy. She was also a member of the Supreme Soviet Presidium and later became head of the Soviet Women's Committee. She was also head of the International Cultural and Friendship Union and later was a chairperson for the Russian Association of International Cooperation. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, she maintained her prestige and is still considered a hero. I believe Valentina Tereskova is a hero because she is a true pioneer and one of a kind. She led the way for many women and kept up her good work while she had the chance. She was the daughter of a working-class family that climbed her way up to greatness and always kept a brave face. In a meeting with Putin not long ago, she said she would love to go to Mars if they let her. And she was 70 years old at the time. What a woman! She never stopped believing in her dreams and she realized them, and that makes her such a strong person, and I truly am inspired by her. I hope you too feel inspired, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation on Valentina Vladimirovna Tereskova. Thank you. There were a lot of different sources for this subject, but I thought that many of them weren't as informative and a bit sketchy, if I'm going to be honest. So I trusted Wikipedia, and all of the information I found on the other side on space.com fitted with the Wikipedia site, and I was very critical, obviously, and checked everything. And that's why I thought it was best for me to use Wikipedia, because I trusted that more than some dodgy sites. Thank you.